everyone. Happy Friday. It is May 28th, 2021, and this is episode 182. My name's Carol. I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, about an hour or so's drive east of Vancouver. How's everyone? It's been a while, hasn't it? Life has been a little bit unpredictable lately, and as a result, so has my recording schedule. But I'm really happy to be back here with you again today after an absence of, I guess, just over 2 weeks. Thankfully, that's given me plenty of time to get some, work on some projects. I have a few things to share with you today, including a finished project. But first, my tale of woe. So I have already recorded this episode once in its entirety. That was this morning, and I even did it all in one take, which never happens. But when I sat down to edit it, for some reason I couldn't open the file. And so here I am, a few hours later, doing it all over again. I couldn't re-record right away because I had to go pick up my younger grandkids from school, but they have been picked up, delivered, and I'm back home again. So hopefully I can get through this fairly smoothly. I know it won't be in one take because I've already had the doorbell ring and I've already messed up a couple of times and had to restart, but maybe we can get through it this time. So I'm going to jump right in with my finished project. And they are my Chickadees socks. Aren't they pretty? So this yarn is from the first installment of the Fibernyth Dye Works Backyard Birdwatchers Club. I think that's how you say it. And the first month was black-capped chickadee. And so as you can see, the main sock is done in the colors of a chickadee, and then the heels and toes, we received like a mini, and this is the color of their eggs. So I think those are really fun. I can't wait to wear them. Now that I've washed and blocked them and shared them with you, I can do that. My basic 64 stitch vanilla top down sock, 2x2 rib, and yarn over short row heel, and then rounded toe. So pretty basic there, but yeah, aren't they great? So as soon as I finished these, oh, by the way, they're in the bounce base, which I think is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon, if I'm remembering correctly. So I showed you last week that 2 weeks ago, I guess, that I had received the next installment of yarn. And this time it was the Blue Jay that was featured. So here's the main yarn, and then we also received this mini to complement. You can probably see the sparkles. That's because this time the base is bedazzled, and I do love me some sparkle, so that made me happy. So I've done a fair bit on them. They're at different points because usually I kind of go back and forth, do a stripe or two on one and a stripe or two on the other, but last night I just kept working on this one, so they're not at the same point, but that's okay. Isn't this a nice interesting striping pattern? It's been really fun to watch these unfold and see what color is coming up next. So again, same as the last pair, 64 stitch top down 2x2 rib. Again, it'll have a yarn over short row heel with the mini, and I'll do the toes, I think, also in the contrasting. So yes, always good to have a plain vanilla sock on the needles. And I also have a pair of not plain vanilla socks on the needles, and that is the Spinifex socks by Helen Stewart. This is the 4th pattern in the 4th Handmade Sock Society. And last week I showed you that I had cast these on in a yarn from Ancient Arts. However, there's a dark streak that runs throughout that skein. The colorway is called Kelpie. And I didn't like how it was knitting up. It was pooling kind of funny, and especially when I started increasing for the gusset stitches, because these socks are done toe up. So, blinking a little because I got a little mascara under my contact. I think it should be able to work its way out without me having to stop here. So yeah, I went stash diving again, and I came up with something that's acceptable but not very exciting, to be perfectly honest. And it is this yarn from Elan. Kind of camouflaged today. It's their A series F05. I think it's a 5, not an S. Yes, F05. I'm reading it backwards on the screen. And this is color 23, so not even an imaginative name or anything. Obviously, I like this color. How can you tell? But it's just the yarn itself. It's a 75-25 wool and nylon, and it feels very similar to Regia or West Yorkshire Spinners or an opal type of yarn. So there's nothing wrong with the yarn, and it will produce a good long wearing sock. It just doesn't have the appeal of a hand painted skein or a hand dyed yarn. It's kind of flat and boring, but the socks themselves are knitting up nicely, and I do like the design. So I have both socks at the same point, and that is I've completed the heel and heel flap, and now I just need to head up the leg. So after I had recorded last time, I think it was a day or two later, Helen Stewart came out with a revision to the pattern, and well, a couple of them actually, but one of them was that if she talked about, I'm assuming that other people found that the stitch design, the stitch pattern wasn't really that noticeable. And I know last time I complained about finding it difficult to work it in the combination of yarn and needles that I was using. It involves a knit 3 together, and I was kind of struggling with that. And I know at the time I thought, wow, it's a lot of work for something that doesn't show up a whole lot. And I also thought maybe it's just the yarn I was using that wasn't allowing those stitches to really show. But I'm guessing other people found the same, because she gave new instructions to say that if we wanted the stitch pattern to pop a little more, to just knit those 3 stitches on the following row rather than purling them. And it does bring them to life a little more. So I'm glad that I went ahead and did that. And I also do think, just with this yarn being so plain, it does show off the stitch pattern better than the other yarn that I was using. So it's not altogether bad. It's just not quite as, I don't know, satisfying as working with a hand-dyed yarn. So I'm really happy. The sock fits really well. I've tried them on. I did end up, I know last time I talked about how I had ended on the row of the pattern that the pattern called for before I began my heel, or before I began my gusset, I should say. This time I needed a little bit extra, a few extra rows to reach the required length. And so I didn't end up starting it where the pattern stated. I just kept track of what row I was on, so that when I finished the heel, I could just start again on the appropriate row, and it fits perfectly. So I'm glad I did that. I think if I had either knocked off a few rows or added a few rows in order to reach that sort of magic row number that was called for, I don't think they would fit as well. So I'm glad I went ahead and did that. So yeah, there's an idea of how they look on the sock blocker, how they'll look on your foot. Yeah, so not much more to say about those other than I really like them. Maybe this will be my next pair of socks for the next St. Patrick's Day. Who knows? We certainly know I have clothes in my wardrobe to match. Can you tell I like this green? Or did I already say that? Probably didn't have to if you just look at the screen, right? And I've been keeping those in this kind of springy bag with the birds. This is one I made for myself. So loving that. Take a sip of tea here. It feels really dry. Still quite hot. I have to be careful. I'm still using my Mother of the Groom cup from the wedding. Can you believe that's over a month ago now? This month has just flown by. They're still married and still happy as far as I know. So that's a good sign. So the new edition of Helen Stewart's Shawl Society has been released since we last spoke. So I have cast on the first shawl, which is Curling Mist Shawl. So the first socks in the Sock Society were called the Curling Mist socks. And I know that the themes for both the Shawl and Sock Society are coordinated or similar. They're the same. It's making me wonder if the shawls that are coming up are going to follow the same order and have the same themes as the socks, in which case that'll make it easier for picking out yarns beforehand. So this shawl is actually done, the original was done in sport weight yarn, but I've chosen to do it in fingering, which will make it a little bit smaller. It's also been done in one color, but I didn't have a set of 2 skeins of fingering weight in the same colorway that I wanted to do the shawl from. And so I ended up picking up 2 very similar skeins in order to work this up, and I am alternating the garter stitch sections with one colorway and then these little cable-y ribbed sections with the other. And so far I'm really happy with how it's working out. Now I am aware that Helen Stewart, when she does her pattern, she does it with a percentage system, in that every 5% she makes note of what percentage you should be at, and then you can weigh your yarns and know whether or not you have enough yarn to complete it. I have a little less yarn than I need, but I'm thinking with the style that it's in, I feel like I have some leeway to shorten it a little bit if I have to. So I am not overly concerned about that. I think I can make it work. So coincidentally, one of the yarns I've chosen was one that I'd also considered for the Curling Mist socks, but had ended up choosing something else. So this is a skein by Sweet Fiber. This is the Super Sweet Sock Base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and this is the Mountainscape colorway. So, as it turned out, the skein that I chose to pair it with is also by a Vancouver area dyer. It also has the name Sweet in its name. sweet Georgia. And it turned out to be a sock blank that also had a mountain theme. It's called Alpine. And obviously both dyers, oops, just dropped the shawl, 1 minute. Obviously both dyers were probably inspired by our coastal mountains here, because you can see they came up with really similar interpretations of the mountains. And so I think they go together really well. Now, this was a sock blank that I wound up, and you can see it's like a very subtle gradient to it. And so I've begun working with the lighter end, and I will finish up with the darker end. I actually knit the shawl about 10% through, but I didn't like the way it looked. I was doing the garter section in this colorway, and it was I was knitting right off of the sock blank. I had wound it into a ball, but I hadn't, the yarn was still very curly, and I didn't like the way it looked knit up. So I ended up taking it out and winding this into a skein, soaking it and hanging it up to dry, and then rewinding it. And so it's not 100% straight, but it's way better. Not only is it easier to work with, but it's knitting up much more nicely. So why don't I show you how it's knitting up? After all that talking about it, I think it looks really good so far. And I don't know if you can see, in real life and in certain lights more than others, you can see the complexity of this colorway. There is so much in there, some shades of green and blue and this smoky, purpley, gray color. And even the sock blank was not just light fading to dark. It was light with streaks of a darker color in it. So it's all kind of streaky, and so you can see that's knitting up that way in the yarn too. So there's a lot of depth and complexity to both of these colorways, and I really like how they're knitting up, and I really like how they're knitting up together. So it'll be interesting to see once I get to the point where the darker colors are going to be next to each other. I think there will still be enough of a difference between them that you will be able to tell where the stripes are. And I'm just hoping that they complement each other as well when we get to that point, because certainly the lighter and the darker go together. But in pretty well every light that I hold this in, it works. The other day there was just the way the light was, I think it was maybe in the afternoon or late afternoon, I went, maybe that's not going to be such a good choice. But I do think overall that they go well, and I guess I'll know when I get there. This shawl I've worked on a fair bit. It's kind of taken the place of the plain stockinette socks for me. It's quite simple. As you can see, a lot of garter stitch, and even this patterned section is just a 4-row repeat that's very easy to memorize, and you just have to keep track at the beginnings and ends where you need to increase and decrease in order to give the shawl the shaping. So it's been a good project to work on when I'm trying to relax or calm down, or just, fill a little bit of time without having to use too much brain power. So loving this so far. Okay, that brings me, I think, let me just double check. Yeah, the only other project I have to talk about are my sock designs from the Downton Abbey appetizer set from Midnight Cravings Yarn Company. So to refresh your memory, there were 3 half skeins of the main colors, which are all named after the 3 sisters from Downton Abbey. And then they each came with a coordinating 25-gram mini. So I am designing 3 different pairs of toe-up socks, 1 for each sister. So I think when I last showed you Lady Mary, I think I had maybe a repeat or 2 of the lace done after the heel. So now I have worked my way through the first half of the skein. I just have a little bit left over, not enough to do another half a pattern repeat or full pattern repeat, because I wanted to end it on either halfway or the full pattern repeat before I do the cuff. So now what I have to do is knit sock number 2, and then once I do that, I will divide what's left of the coordinating skein and I will do the cuffs with that. So because there's only half a skein of each colorway, the socks are going to be a little shorter than I personally like my socks to be, but at the same time they're certainly long enough, and I know a lot of people don't make them anywhere near as long as I do anyway, so I don't think that's a big problem. Maybe I'll show it this side so you can see my fancy sock blocker with the yarn ball. Yeah, so there's, maybe that's better there. There's Lady Mary. That's my working name for all of these, is Lady Mary, Lady Edith, and Lady Sybil, but we'll see. I was looking on Ravelry and I don't think there was much in the way of things named Lady Mary or Lady Sybil, but there were an awful lot of Lady Edith projects or patterns out there. So we'll see if that remains the name or not. But yeah, I'm happy with that. So I do need to cast on sock number 2 at some point. Cameron and I actually watched the last 2 episodes of Downton Abbey period last night. So we're done with the series, and the next time he comes home we're going to watch the movie. We can rent it via our TV provider. So that's the plan. So I have also got the Lady Edith sock to the same point, and again I need to cast on the second sock, work it through, and then divide up what's left for the cuffs. So this one turned out a little bit longer, but I have a feeling that when it's blocked that the lace sock will probably stretch a little bit longer also. So yeah, there's my Lady Edith sock. I think this is my favorite one. Maybe because of the green, I'm not sure, but I really do like this one. I like them all. I think this is just my favorite. And then I have not made any progress on Lady Sybil since the last time we spoke, but here it is just as a reminder. So this contrasting color is called Parasol, which gave me the idea to do parasols running up the front of the sock. And the reason I have it knit on these is I'm still mulling over what I'm going to do with the back of the leg. I had a couple of suggestions from viewers. Thank you for those. And I also have a couple of ideas of my own. So haven't yet thought that through. I think I need to pull out the stitch dictionaries again and Uh, Hopefully by next episode, I'll have made up my mind and will be able to show you this sock in a similar state as the other two. So that is it for the knitting. So Cameron has come and gone again twice since I last recorded. Last week he came home Tuesday night and left again Friday morning. And then this week he came home Wednesday night and left again this morning. So unfortunately he was only able to be here one day this week, but we made the most of it. If you happen to be new, my husband has been working out of town for, I think this is the 7th week now that he's been gone. It's only about a 2-hour drive away, but it's just too far to commute. And so he's been staying up there, trying to get home for a day or two every week. Used to be weekends, now that's not working out so well. So last Wednesday, Thursday was our weekend, which really messed me up because then I kept thinking that was the weekend. So then when another weekend arrived so quickly, it was just totally messing with my mind. And it's doing that again. I keep thinking that it's, Monday, but it's really Friday. In any case, the good news is that if all goes well, by early next week, there will be a new manager in place at the store where he's working. She's just going through the last stages of the hiring process, and so cross your fingers that that works out. Unfortunately, even if that were to go to plan, Cameron is still going to have to work up there for an indefinite period of time. For one thing, obviously he's going to have to train a new manager. Also, they're still short one full-time employee. And then to just add everything on top of that, the company is doing inventory in June, and he has to assist with that too. So it is what it is. It's temporary. It just seems to be going on forever. But we just try and make the most of the time he's home. Last week we actually went furniture shopping. We wanted to replace our living room furniture. Last fall we had bought new furniture for our family room, and the furniture in our living room was at least as old, if not older. It's almost 20 years old. And for a long time, it's looked a little bit ratty because at one point our cat decided she didn't like our new scratching post, and so she started to use the ends of the couch as her private scratching post. And then over the years, she's been gone now for 6-7 years, something like that. But because it's been structurally okay, we've hung on to it. But it's starting to break down, especially the couch where we sit on the most. So we decided it was time. So we ended up getting a new couch and love seat. We had planned to replace our armchair rockers too, but when we brought the cushion and sample fabric from the couch that we were looking at home to see how it looked, in our house, turned out that the cushions really matched our chairs really well. And so we decided, since they were still in pretty good shape, the odd cat scratch, but pretty structurally sound, we decided that we're going to hold on to those for now. So we did buy a new area rug and new tables. So on Wednesday, part of the furniture arrived. The rest we have to wait for 2 or 3 months for. But we have our new love seat and 3 of the tables. And there's lots of storage. A couple of the end tables have cupboards, and then they also have the little flap in the back that lifts up and has power plugs and USB plug-ins. We bought a couple like that for our downstairs, and they really come in handy. So very pleased with those. And then the coffee table has 5 drawers on the front, and then at the back has a lift up back, and this room for storage in there. So guess where my knitting stuff that I use in the living room is all living now. So I can, instead of piling my projects on the love seat, I can now store them in the coffee table. And then all my notions and patterns and needle sets and all that I can store in the living room, or in the coffee table. I used to have a lot of those things in a basket, just tucked under the end table beside where I sit. So now that basket will come in here somewhere and I'll be able to put other things in it. So very pleased with that. Anxious to get the rest of it, but we've lived without it for this long. It's not going to be that bad to have to wait. Last night we decided to go out for dinner. We had not been out for dinner since Cameron's birthday at the end of February. And we've just had indoor dining open up here again in BC this week. And now that we have our vaccines, our first shots anyway, it's been a couple of months now. We felt like it just felt right, felt safe. And so, yeah, we had a nice dinner, and the restaurant was not very busy. So we had one group right behind us in a booth that was completely out of sight because of all the barriers. And then they left maybe after maybe half an hour or so. And then we had nobody else around us. So it felt very safe, and yeah, just really, really nice to go out on a date and to spend some quality time together. Most of the time that he's home is used up doing laundry, and I've been pre-cooking some of our meals and portioning them out so that we both have some decent meals for the week ahead. And then he's unpacking and packing. So it was nice just to get out and just do something fun. I'm just gonna look at my notes here. Oh yeah, I'm really been enjoying the outdoors. I've got all of my gardens and containers planted now, and we've had a good mix of nice weather and rain. Today we've had both. Woke up pouring rain, got sunny for a while, and then it's been some showers and clouds since then. But it seems to have done the gardens well. So all of the new bedding plants are taking hold and starting to flower, and everything's coming along really nicely. Everything except my tomatoes. I bought 3 tomato plants this year that were already quite large, and I didn't want to move them into the ground or into bigger containers, and I'm questioning that move. They were getting yellow leaves, and I Googled what could cause it, and one of the things is overwatering and one of them's underwatering. I suspect the former. And another is just the nutrient deficiency. So I let them dry out a little bit, and then yesterday I fed them with some vegetable fertilizer, and so I'm hoping that they'll make a comeback. We'll see, because I really do love fresh tomatoes, so we'll see how that goes, but certainly the flowers are all doing well. Another good thing is, some of you have been asking about my grandson. He had an accident on the playground a few weeks ago, and the middle part of his two front teeth uh, broke out. So he had sort of a V-shaped hole here. So on Friday, last Friday, they were all rebuilt. My son-in-law sent this great smile, very happy, happy little boy. And I had picked him up from school earlier this week. And the first thing I said was, "Let me see your smile." And he just grinned. So good for him. I think he's feeling a lot better about things now that his teeth are fixed. Um, Speaking of teeth, I just had my first cleaning and checkup at the dentist since COVID-19. I had gone last February, just before everything got shut down, and was just putting it off till I felt safer. And again, now that we've had our vaccine for a couple of months, I decided it was time to get back in there. Um, Things weren't nearly as terrible as I thought they might be. Everything, thankfully, was in pretty good shape. So the cleaning wasn't too unbearable. Other than I just don't enjoy the process. I do, however, have a small cavity that's forming under my crown, one of my crowns. So I do have to get a new crown. So that I'm just waiting for the insurance company to approve it, and then I'll go ahead and get that done. So all things considered, could have been a lot worse. Let's see what else here. Oh yes. So I'm happy to report that I have won the latest battle in the War of the Moles. And thankfully, this time the trap did its job and I didn't have to deal with a live mole. And following the suggestion of one of my viewers and knitting friends, I buried the carcass back in the hole where I got it, and or where I caught it. And I'm hoping that that will help deter further moles from moving in on the territory. So far, cross fingers, there hasn't been any other visible activity, but I am not holding my breath. But in the meantime, till I see any other molehills pop up, I am just reveling just a little in my victory. And one of the best things is that earlier this week, on Tuesday, in fact, our province rolled out its reopening plan. It's all dependent on the cases starting to decline and hospitalizations declining, and then vaccines increasing. So over the next few months, various restrictions will be eased. So as I mentioned, we can now have dine-in service at restaurants, and we are allowed to have up to 5 people in our homes. So we're still holding off with the kids because they're still in school. But for instance, our son and his wife have both had COVID and had a vaccine, and so they've basically achieved fully vaccinated status, and the jury is still out whether they're going to be even given a booster shot for the vaccine. So I would totally feel safe spending time with them without a mask inside. But yeah, just gonna wait for the kids till they're done school, and then I'm really looking forward to having them over for sleepovers. Probably not as much as their mother is. She is very anxious to have a bit of a break from the kids. And until then, we'll spend time with them outdoors, and that'll be fine. That will just have to do for now. Um, Also, in a couple of weeks, if all goes to plan, then travel restrictions will ease and we'll be allowed to travel outside of our health zones again. And even by the beginning of summer, we may even be permitted to travel Canada-wide again. So lots and lots to look forward to, especially as more and more people are getting vaccinated. It's been very encouraging to see our case numbers here in BC decline quite a bit. Today, actually, 3 family members are getting vaccinated or already have. My sister in Toronto got her second shot today. One of my brothers-in-law here in town got his second shot. And then our older granddaughter, she's 16, and she gets her first shot this evening. So things are definitely looking up. We're also expecting to have to wait less time before our second shot than was first anticipated. And so rather than, I think we were due to get ours around the beginning of August, so we may have ours by the beginning of July. So that would be great, because as soon as we have our second shot, then I'll feel like just that much safer. So yeah, lots of good news. In fact, there were too many good things this week to narrow them down to just one something good. So I've just put them all together here at the end of the episode. Despite Cameron still being away for an unknowable amount of time, there is plenty of good going on, and I hope there is for you too. So on that happy note, I think I've shared everything that I wanted to. You'll notice there are no acquisitions this week. I've been a good girl. But have you seen the new, I think it's Loftoven, Arnie and Carlos colorways that are coming out for sock yarn? I think I need to own most of those. They are beautiful. So in the coming weeks, once they are released, don't be surprised to see me showing them off. But for now, yeah, I have not bought any new yarn for a few weeks, so that's good, because I certainly have plenty of beautiful stuff to work with as it is. Okay, I hope you have a good weekend. It's weird to be recording on a Friday, but yeah, have a good weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and I don't know when I'll be back with you again. It's going to depend basically on Cameron's schedule, so hopefully sooner rather than later, but take care until we meet again. Bye for now.